I'll call the meeting to order at 7:04. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Allred,
Here.
Mr. Andreessen, Mr. Fell, Mr. Hopkins,
Here.
Ms. McFarland,
Present.
Mr. Rose,
Here.
Ms. Sims, and Ms. Yu.
Here.
Okay, so it looks like we have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes. We would like to continue plan case number 2500 T25. That is the amendment to, deals with porches and porch stairs, which I assume most people in the crowd are not here for that, and they're here for the comprehensive plan. So I think just to respect everybody's time, we're going to continue that to the next plan commission meeting.
March 20th?
March 20th, yes, next week.
Okay, approval of the minutes. We have no minutes to approve. Communications, any communications?
Yes, and so all the communications that we received up till about 5 o'clock today are printed out and have been given to Plan Commission. By my count, there's at least 22 These were regarding the comprehensive plan. I did want to point out a couple of the communications asked that that they be read into the record. That's not something that we do at Plan Commission. It's not in our bylaws. It's not in our public input guidelines. That is something that City Council does. I just wanted to state, so we're not going to read those into the record, but they will be part of the record, and you have them in front of you.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Okay, so we have no continued public hearings, no old business. That brings us to our new business for this evening. As Mr. Garcia just said, plan case number 2500 T25. We're going to continue that until the March 20th meeting of the Plan Commission, which brings us to plan case number 2502 CP25. A request by the Urbana Zoning Administrator to adopt the Imagine Urbana Comprehensive Plan, which is available at the address shown there. While staff is getting set up, I just want to say, first off, I want to thank staff and all their partners for all the work that they've done putting this plan together over the last actually it's more than 4 years, I think now. It's exciting to be starting this phase of the process. I also want to lay out the sort of plan for the meeting or this portion of our public hearing tonight. So first, we're going to hear a presentation from staff about the comprehensive plan. Then we'll open it up to public comment, and we'll take public comment. We're going to leave the public comment open because at the end of this, the plan is to continue the public hearing until our next regular meeting of the Plan Commission on March 20th. But after we've exhausted the interest in providing public comment this evening, we'll have some time for some discussion amongst the commission and possibly some direction, the possibility of providing some direction to staff on how to proceed or changes to recommendations in terms of changes. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Allred. Yeah, I'm going to try and be somewhat brief to respect everybody's time, and because I appreciate everybody coming out for this, and I would like to hear what the public thinks of the plan. As Dustin, you said, we've been working on this for close to 5 years now, and so we're also very excited to be at this point where we're opening the public hearing. Just sort of a note about process. So the Plan Commission is the body that recommends the comprehensive plan to the City Council. So as you just heard, we will be having this public hearing today. We will not be closing the public hearing today. We'll have at least one more public hearing on this until the Plan Commission. We'll have the public hearing until Plan Commission feels that we're ready to make a recommendation to City Council, and then ultimately City Council is the one who approves or who adopts the plan. So I'd like to thank everybody in the audience for coming out. I'd like to thank everybody who's submitted comments online thus far. If you haven't, I'll show everybody how you can do that through the Comprehensive Plan's website a little bit later on. Just so briefly, the way that we're going to go through this is in front of you. First, we wanted to start with this video that seems like we put it together a long time ago, which we did. But we wanted to share this with folks.
Why is the comprehensive plan important to me?
My name is Devon Nirvana and I'm a senior at Urbana High School. The Urbana Comprehensive Plan is important to me as it articulates the vision for my city for over the next 2 decades.
Community and connecting are important to me. And so being part of the planning process will help to give me a voice when it comes to attempting to make sure that when I choose to bike or walk somewhere that I can do so enjoyably and safely.
I came here in 1962, lived on Tremont Street, and I'm currently living on Eureka in Urbana. We need grocery stores. We need a city bank or either a branch bank, and we need a health facility, and we also need a community center for the people in this area.
My name is Terry Beals. I'm from Cushman, Illinois, farm country. The Urbana Comprehensive Plan is very important to me because I do enjoy coming to this town and I want it to continue to thrive and prosper. The outdoor venues, the music, the arts, the restaurants, it's a whole heart kind of a town and we need to keep it going.
My name is Marlene Corrado. I am the manager at El Progreso in Urbana. This comprehensive plan is important to everyone, and especially the businesses in minority communities.
I'm Somali Thompson, and as a University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign parent, it's important for me to ensure the safety and the quality of life experience for my daughter.
I've been a resident of Urbana for 35 years. Urbana's comprehensive plan is important to me because it helps make streets, sidewalks, community buildings, and businesses accessible to me.
Feedback from artists like me is essential to ensuring that the comprehensive plan addresses and allows the artistic lives of artists like me to grow.
Okay, so so I think one thing that video shows is, we from the start we tried to get out and talk to as many people as we could, get feedback on the plan early. It's been a really sort of iterative process. We've had several sort of different phases of public input, different ways to reach out to the public, going door to door in some neighborhoods that in areas where we typically don't hear from folks. We wanted to get out and hear from them for this, so we went out door to door to hear from them. So this plan is really the culmination of just a lot of input from the public on what they want the future of Urbana to be, and that's what brings us here tonight. And I'm going to walk through sort of an overview of the plan pretty briefly, but talk about what a comprehensive plan is, what our process was a little bit, going through big ideas, big and little moves and metrics, because those form the core of the plan, along with our maps and place types, which kind of talk about what different areas will look like in the future. We'll go over a little bit of the feedback we received so far, talk about a timeline moving forward, and then we'll get to the public comment. So see if we can go through kind of quickly. I'm going to, I think, go ahead and pull up the plan if folks haven't been there. Well, I assume a lot of folks in the audience have been there, but let's go. So you can get there through our website. under departments and services. We couldn't think of a better place to put it, so Imagine Urbana is just right there if you're following along at home. Oops, wait, that's not the one. Here's where the draft plan is. Okay, sorry about that. You can also just go to Imagine Urbana. You can type in Imagine Urbana. It'll go to that website I was just at, and then it will bring you to the plan. So when you get to the plan, there's this landing page where comments are still open, as this is this is still in progress. If you need to know how to comment, there's a link here on how to comment. There's also one up here. I guess I could go through that real quick just to show everybody while we're at it. So it'll just walk you through, and when I get into the plan, it'll show you. But on the left side, there's just an area that allows you to comment. It's pretty easy and self-explanatory. So the way the plan's structured, obviously we have an introduction and some background information. We talk about what the plan is, how it's going to be used, give the background, and then really sort of the heart of the plan is starts with our vision and values. So I just want to go through these just so that you all know where we're coming from with the rest of the plan. So Urbana's vision is that we are a welcoming community for everyone. And our values are that the city ensures equity and inclusion in all city services. The city is a welcoming, livable, and healthy community. The city has a thriving, resilient economy and environment. The city celebrates and enriches its cultural vitality. And the city promotes growth within the city's borders. So those really form sort of the structure of the rest of the plan, which follows from there. There's a handy graphic and some information about sort of how the rest of the plan is structured. So we have big ideas, which are really the overarching goals for Urbana's future. And I should say comprehensive plans usually have a timeline of 10 to 20 years. We talk about 20 years in here. Our current plan is from 2005, which was 20 years ago exactly. So it's a good time to adopt a new plan for the next 20 years. So we have our bigger ideas, which are the overarching goals, and then we have what are called big moves and little moves. So big moves are really the strategies that we use to achieve those goals, those big ideas. And then under the big moves, how we achieve those are little moves. So those are kind of the little steps, the actions we can take to achieve our big moves and our big ideas. And then we also have metrics in here to sort of track our progress, because a plan isn't much good if you can't actually tell if you're actually moving forward and achieving it. So we track progress with metrics. So that's the basic structure of the plan. I'm not going to get into too much detail on the rest of it. The other big component of this plan is the section on maps. So we're a city. Most of what's in the plan has something to do with being spatially located out in the city. So we have three maps. So we've got one's called place types, which sort of identifies the type of place, whether it's a neighborhood or say a commercial area or large green spaces. Those fall under place types, and we get into details on what each of those place types entails. Then we have a map that's connections or connected city, and that shows the streets and paths and future sort of future connections that help people get around the city safely and comfortably. And then we've got something new for this plan, that we don't have in our current plan, we're calling development opportunities. And this is just sort of highlighting some key areas that we can focus our staff time on. We have limited staff, so to sort of identify key areas where planning staff, where economic development staff, where other staff can really focus our efforts over the next 20 years to sort of achieve the rest of this plan. If you're in the plan and you're looking for maps, you can either get there through this link up at the top, or you can just come over in the table of contents here. Now, we did get some feedback that the maps are not super legible, and I just wanted to point out, and I added some text here to make sure that folks knew that this isn't the highest resolution you can get. So it says click here to open the map. So if you click on the map, it will either, depend on your browser, it'll either download it to your computer or it'll just open it within the browser. So that'll give you a much higher resolution map for some of these. For this place types map in particular, we heard that it was hard to read because there weren't enough street labels on there. So earlier today I fixed that, uploaded it onto the plan. So now you should be able to better orient yourself and understand sort of where where the cutoff is between these different place types on that map. So and let's just see. So yeah, then you should be able to zoom in and street types, or sorry, the streets. Ooh, that's way zoomed in. I didn't want the street names to be too prominent, but so maybe, I might need to tweak it a little bit. But now you can see sort of all of the major streets were labeled in white before. Now sort of more minor streets are labeled sort of in a gray. So hopefully that helps folks out. But if you still have trouble with it, let us know. Also, if you're here tonight, there's all these maps are on the walls behind, so you can take a look at those. So connected city map, if you've been following along at our study sessions, this was one map that needed a bit more work, so I updated it pretty extensively the last couple of days, made it much more legible, I'd say, cleaned up the colors and things. So, and identified sort of how we're prioritizing projects, and just made it easier to read. So if you haven't looked at it for a little bit, that'll probably be new to you. It should be easier to read. And then finally, development opportunities. So we're identifying things called activity centers, development opportunities, corridors, and then we've outlined the sanitary sewer service areas, which might not sound that exciting to people, but it really does sort of identify areas where potential growth could happen, sort of that's outside the city, but it also shows areas where it would be much more costly to grow outside the city. So that's been, I think that was updated between the last study session and now as well. So that is really kind of an overview of just sort of a really broad overview of the structure of the plan. We have received, and I haven't had a chance to read all the feedback because we were receiving it all the way up until at least 5 o'clock today. I think. Well, one thing I should point out, which I skipped this, but it's really what is a comprehensive plan? A comprehensive plan is a policy document, so it kind of guides how sort of guides what we want to do for the future. But it's not a rule book. It's not a regulatory document. So the comprehensive plan itself won't do things like change zoning or get rid of design overlay districts that are already existing. Comprehensive plan also doesn't get into a very fine-grained level of detail for for any neighborhood in the city. It is a citywide plan, so it, by necessity, it has to be sort of painting with broad strokes and not getting fine-grained for any particular place. We can, and we mentioned this in the plan, so we can do specific small area plans, like for a specific business area or for a specific neighborhood, that could get into finer detail, but that's not really the role of a comprehensive plan. So going forward, just here's a little calendar of where we're at. So we've opened the public hearing tonight on the 13th. I know next week is spring break and a lot of folks will be out of town, but we do have a regularly scheduled meeting next week. We have a couple of cases, including the one text amendment that was continued today. So we will have a meeting next week. We plan to revisit the comprehensive plan there if folks want to come out if they couldn't make it tonight. But we do plan then to have another special meeting on the 27th to sort of continue discussion if we need to. So really, we're not expecting that the Plan Commission would be making a recommendation until at least the end of the month. So just wanted to make sure everybody was sort of on the same page with the timeline there. So that kind of concludes my remarks, and I'd like to hear what all these folks in the audience think.
Thanks, Mr. Garcia. Are there any questions for staff before we move into public input? Mr. Hopkins?
You've given us a new version tonight. Different, I have now confirmed from the one we got 2 weeks ago. And you've identified some of the changes. I guess the main thing I want to know is, are there changes, for example, to the Connected City map other than graphic and reorganization? Or are there, and that's the example I'm using to ask the question. What are any substantive changes since the version that we had to work with until 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, so I'd say okay. I feel like, okay, there we go. Yeah, so most of the changes we've made, I'd say, have been pretty minor, and it's based on feedback we've gotten from the Plan Commission at our previous study sessions. So, and I don't know if I have a complete list of all the changes.
We did at each of the last two meetings, we've gone through what the changes have been since the previous week. So those are detailed in the slide deck that we sent out to those that were here and not here. So it goes into detail, and we have the same list then for tonight, what we changed. As Kevin said, though, most of them have been clarification or changing it to make it more readable, more navigable based on public feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, so this on the screen, this is the list of changes that we had wanted to share last week. So it's not, it's nothing of great substance, but it's it's making, I'd say, small tweaks to the plan. Yeah.
So the list you have in front of you is since we met last week. So the two slide decks you have that showed what changes have been made for each of the weeks, this is the same format, showing changes that we made since the 20th, or since the 6th.
Okay. But page yours or? Okay.
Okay, any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up to the public. We do have quite a large audience tonight, so we are going to be limiting each public comment to 5 minutes. You can see the timer off to the side there. Other than that, if you'd like to address the commission, you can come forward, state your name, and sign in, and tell us what you have to say.
I might just make a comment. There may be some of you out there who were confused, as I was, when getting the postcard mailing, which implied this was a more informal, implied to me that it was a more informal kind of interaction open house. But this is a public hearing, so.
Hi, my name is Sherry Steigman, and I will just read this to you. I'm concerned that in the Imagine Urbana comprehensive plan, the safety of those who live and visit here is included almost as an afterthought at the bottom of a list of the city's big ideas. It should be a government's first priority. We must provide our police chief with the manpower and equipment he needs. Making walkability a priority implies that you do not want cars in our community, an impression I've had for a long time. I guess you want Urbana to be a small village from the 1800s, but without the horse and buggy. I walk for exercises a few blocks a few times a week, but I have neither the time nor the inclination to visit friends or run errands by walking or riding a bicycle, especially during cold or very hot or in days or in inclement weather. The former applies to 7 to 8 months of the year in Urbana, and the latter at any time during a 12-month period. Please fix the potholes. Few businesses can thrive if customers come only from an immediate vicinity of a few blocks. I must assume that your emphasis on increasing low-cost housing means you want to increase federally subsidized housing. To increase affordable housing, I'd like to know what zoning changes you're going to make. And I have to say, I object to tax money being spent to subsidize businesses and apartment buildings, because we already pay, as you know, a substantially higher tax rate than most of the communities around us. I have very little hope that any opinions questioning or expressing opposition to the plan at this meeting will move the incoming mayor or the city council. I have lived here and loved my community since 1978. I weep for it now. No family with a choice would want to send their children to our schools. My children, our schools were wonderful, particularly the middle school. These people are not moving to Urbana. Stores have closed due to rampant shoplifting. Fear of walking alone at night is spreading. I find it all very sad. I want to thank you all for the time you do put in. Thank you.
Excuse me, could you please sign the piece of paper up here, please, so I can get your name for the record? Thank you.
I think we all signed there.
Okay. Thanks for your comment.
Hi there. Can you all hear me okay? My name is Grant. I live in Ward 2. I'm just down the street from here. Anyway, I just wanted to put in some things that I've been doing in preparation for this public hearing. I would like to express that I am in favor of aspects of the comprehensive plan, which includes the pedestrian and bike and mass transit centric planning objectives for the next 20 years. As a person who does not have a car, who walks everywhere, and lives in group housing, this is something that would be very helpful for me to be able to get around the city and folks in my situation. We're not the majority, but we do exist. And so I also wanted to respond to some issues that I've encountered so far in online discussions about this comprehensive plan. One is to address the vacancy rate concerns and the idea that we don't need any housing stock because the vacancy rate is relatively high compared to the national average. And I just wanted to provide a counterpoint to this in that looking at the census.gov data, it turns out that for certain parts of Urbana, we do have elevated vacancy rates, and there's a whole number of potential explanations for that. But what I can confirm is that our rents in this area have gone up year over year. And so I think that that does indicate that there is housing pressure that remains in this area. Champaign County, on the whole, I think has a much lower vacancy rate than Urbana does, but we're part of the same metro area. Yeah, and I also wanted to speak to, I think, some objections to developers. For example, the student housing was an objection that I came across. That I think that the vacancy rates on these may be high because they are generally poorly managed. And there are some examples from Washington, D.C. on public housing that has very high housing pressure, but has poorly managed public housing with vacancy rates of about 25%. Also, we have new developments, and those do take a long time to stabilize. And we also have, I think, the most serious issue. The housing stock that is being built in the city is at price points above what the majority of demanded housing stock is. And I think that there's a number of complex reasons for that. But from what I've looked at the Champaign Regional dashboard was that we generally have housing stock. The majority of it falls between $0 and $1,000 per month rent. And these new developments are over that, and sometimes well over that. So those will remain vacant because there isn't demand for them. I also wanted to speak to parking minimums and the idea that vehicles can help. I think that they pave over issues and concerns about safety, as was mentioned earlier. There are concerns about walking after dark, and some folks do not feel comfortable being out after dark and walking more than a few blocks. So taking a car feels imperative. Same thing for mass transit isn't always available and isn't always necessarily convenient or go to destinations that people want to. And as well for inclement weather was another thing, is there's generally a lacking of a provision for people to be able to get around, for example, when it's icy or when it's otherwise uncomfortable, inconvenient to do so. So that's all I've got there. So the last thing that I would like to do is invite some proposed alternative developments. One of these would be increasing the maximum occupancy for existing structures. I am in favor of the new neighborhood designations for neighborhood 1 and 2, which does increase the use types that are available in a given neighborhood without drastically changing their character. And so I would favor, for example, doing what we've done in the co-op that I live at, where we had a single detached dwelling that had occupancy of, I think, 4 or 5. We now have 14. And so the nature of the neighborhood directly adjacent to that has not been changed, but the interior of the structure has. I'd also like to, I know that this isn't the scope here, but I want to put on the radar that changing building types and the materials that are used can also help drive down the cost of new construction. For example, natural building materials and natural building methods for structures that are less than 5 stories can be economically feasible. And then also I'd like to put on for greater local control in the sense of neighborhood associations and also considering cooperatives and other forms of alternative organization outside of what I think is the traditional form of organizing in the United States. So that's all I've got. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your comment. Could you also sign in? If we could maybe change the flow, if you could sign in before you start talking, that way you wouldn't have to remind. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Olivia Webb. I live in Ward 2, and I've been an environmental educator here for about 8 years. So I had two different comments, and one is just on the green space aspect. I love how much we invest in our parks here, and I've seen firsthand over and over the effect that that has on children and adults in this area. I just wanted to suggest that we think of green space less as one of the types of land uses here. We have residential, commercial, and green space, and more as a thing that coexists with all of those other types of land use. Native plantings around town, micro parks, that sort of thing. This all forms sort of an ambient environmental education, and it amplifies all the investments that we've ever made in our park district here. So you can have as much, you can pour a lot of money into making field trips to your local parks, but that's still, there's an equity issue there. And the Urbana Park District, I know, has been thinking about these issues a lot. So if all of Urbana leaned in to this idea that we have native plantings in as many places as we can, we emphasize, these mini parks, no matter how small, I think that we would really, like I said, multiply the investments we've already made in our natural areas here. And the second thing I wanted to say is that, like Grant, I'm a member of a housing cooperative here in town, and I'm not sure if the commission is aware that that is a pretty thriving way of living here in Urbana. There are many housing cooperatives where people live in groups and cook and clean together. This is just a way of living that's not an apartment, it's not Greek life, but it is a way of creating community. And so if you're looking at low income housing, if you're looking at denser housing that is not creating the densest apartment complex you possibly can, I think that leaning into housing cooperatives is a way to achieve that. And I'm sure that I or any of the members of our housing cooperative would love to talk to the commission about that further. But thank you.
Great. Thanks for your comment.
Hi, my name is Zach Selecki. I live over in Ward 2, actually, right across the ginormous parking lot across the street in the Howard building. So one thing I would like to say is that we have one of the most walkable cities I've ever been to. But that is only true in a very specific part of town. So I'd be willing to bet most of us here and most of the talking that we're doing is centered around West Urbana. But meantime, there is portions of the city that have very little sidewalks or streetlights down to the south and east. So I would really like to emphasize the importance of keeping these areas in the discussion, and they're really forgotten about. The other thing, we have a wonderful transportation district already, but really only if you live on Green Street, right? So these ideas of like walkability, public transit, and having a city that is drivable, not necessarily mutually exclusive. I have this building that I live in. There are 7 parking spaces for 16 apartment units. And when those fill, I get a ticket for parking in the ginormous empty parking lot in the middle of downtown for no reason. There's no parking meters. There's no way for me to ever park there. So things like that, if we're getting into, that kind of ties into zoning and like medium density apartment stuff too. We don't need to change the character of any neighborhoods, west or east of downtown, when we have all of this space that can be utilized in a non-controversial way, very close here to City Hall. There is space that can be improved upon and made more efficient without controversy, without compromising neighborhoods. So I'd really like to reiterate, everyone in front of me has made some like really good points on both sides of things, and they're both equally valid and not mutually exclusive. So I just like people to think about, okay, well, where is the middle ground here? I think we can all agree that there is so much empty space downtown that can be drastically improved upon, really without any argument.
Great, thanks.
I'm a physicist. I'm trying to bring.
Sorry, can you first sign in and then also speak into the mic so that people at home watching on TV can hear?
Okay, speaking here. So I will try to show a big idea which was missing along history and caused huge division along history, huge conflicts, huge wars, and there is a simple solution. The system, the method, and the system for stability. Like for a car, we have oil filter and fuel filter. In society, we don't have a method and a system for stability. We only practice propaganda, and instead there is a simple way to get rid of that. So I am a physicist, and in physics you can see the major opposing views for light. One part says it's a wave. The other part says it's not a wave. And people with smart brain still fall into one side and the other side. What I did was, hey, if I look enough at these opposing views, I can find the solution. I can see that there is a missing fundamental experiment, while if we practice only my view and practice the other view, we don't succeed to see that there is a fundamental experiment which was not done by the smartest people. So I came here and I did that experiment, and I found the solution. The broad thinking on the major opposing view is the solution. And from this extraordinary finding that the structure of light is not wave, is not the other side, but it's a very practical thing. So I used this method of broad thinking on the major opposing views for a life here, and I found that by a systematic practice of the broad view on the liberals and the conservatives, we see that it's missing the system for stability in society. So I tried to make a school to spread, to show how this system for stability, method and system for stability works. And I went, for instance, to many representatives, senators, but they are busy with their activity, and this is way too much. So I started to go to Urbana Adult Education to show that people can learn very simple this system for stability in society. But they also cannot, they are busy with their way. So I'm trying to build my own school, like was initially the School for Science in society. Education of the method to look at the details and build something. But this method is the method of broad thinking on the major opposing views of liberals and conservatives.
I'm sorry, but you've reached the end of your time limit. We have to move on.
I will try to see if you guys can help. If not, I will do my own money to make this school, to show that broad thinking on the major opposing views is the solution, that you and me, we are together, and not, I will fight you.
Did you say your name?
Corneliu Costescu. O-S-T-E-S-D-U.
Just a quick question, more than a comment, and that is, we're looking at a comprehensive plan, but I'm also looking at the corridor of Philo Road where it says this is our business district as we pull into town from the south. And in addition to, quote, long-range planning, I personally don't know what is being proposed to actively occupy some of the vacant buildings, such as Walgreens, to keep us fresh, to keep us moving, to keep us ahead. I thank you, and it's just a great concern, as well as downtown Urbana. Thank you. Linda Lopez.
Sorry, could you state your name, ma'am, for the record?
Linda Lopez.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jim Webster, and I came to the meeting tonight. Thought I wasn't going to say anything, but excuse me, I'm here. I'm the owner of Lincoln Square, and I commend the people that are serving on this committee. It's a very important thing to have a good plan for the next 20 years. Excuse me. I haven't read the plan in depth, but glanced through it, and I noticed there was one sentence talking about Lincoln Square out of the whole plan. As big of a footprint as we have in the downtown, it seems remiss that Lincoln Square was not even considered. Nobody asked me anything about this, and I had no input whatsoever. I think there's reasons for that, but I just want to say that we are committed to long-term vitality in downtown Urbana. I'm a long-term owner, and I can, God willing, I'll be a long-term owner in the future. Investments I make are based on that assumption. I don't think people realize how many events we put on for the community and have become, to some extent, an ad hoc community center. Nearly every weekend we have an event or two that we have received no money, where we have obviously expenses. And Lincoln Square is not where we want it to be. We have very high aspirations, and we want it to be a place that people in Urbana could be proud of. We want it to be a unique mall where people on Mom's Day come and see this is a mall of non-traditional stores, art, music, food. And I just wanted to say that. I'm not a very good public speaker, but I've spent a lot of time and effort into the project and really look forward to the future and hope to have a better relationship with the city in doing so. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Hello, my name is Veronica Falcon. I just moved here to Urbana. This is my first time here, but I'll keep my piece short. I've just noticed that there's very poor lighting on roads. It makes it very difficult to see. And I think it was mentioned earlier, potholes are a big thing that I've noticed. I live on Bradley Road, well, near Bradley Road. I live on Broadway, and I take Bradley pretty often, and it's impossible to drive on there because there are no streetlights and it's full of potholes. I noticed that they're opening a new golf course, and I'm assuming a country club, which will increase traffic in that road, which will only deteriorate the road even further. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and hopefully it gets addressed in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name's Alex Womack. I apologize if some of this seems naive. I found out about this a couple days ago, so I've been trying to flip through it. I did notice a certain lack of information regarding some of the homelessness initiatives that we have in the area. I've been observing some of our homeless population for a little over a year now. Some of the shelter initiatives that we have are insufficient, in my opinion. I know many of them congregate towards the eastern side of Champaign and kind of split the difference between here and there. I would just like to, bring it to everybody's attention to try to shed some light on the issue to see if we can help our neighbors. Seeing them around town makes people, gives them a sense of lack of safety, lack of care, and makes people feel discouraged and kind of hopeless about various situations. I have seen several of the proposed ideas regarding the affordable housing, which I think is really great. However, it doesn't necessarily address what happens when people fail and what happens when they do end up on the street. So I would just really like to see some level of ideas bounced around, seeing if we can maybe pull these people off the street and get some of our neighbors, brothers and sisters and moms and dads off the streets, helping them out and taking care of people in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Soup. My pronouns are they, them. And I live in Ward 2. I actually live in the same house as Grant. I am also very pro co-op and believe that they're not believed in as a solution for a lot of things like affordable housing, isolation, healthy eating, those kinds of things. I actually have a pretty quick comment, but I noticed that in what is delineated as green spaces, golf courses are included, and I don't think that things that are non-public, non-accessible, actual, usable green space should be counted as green space. I work with Solidarity Gardens. We actually do a lot of trying to bring food production and local green space areas into our communities, and those are our local green spaces, the places where people can go and actually enjoy the nature that's happening. I think that some more consideration into what is being considered a green space and how we're improving that in the city should be counted. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Patty Jones. I serve on the Community Development Commission for the City of Urbana. So for those of you who are interested in homeless issues, that's the commission where things roll up to City Council. And we need more volunteer commissioner. Oh, sorry. I serve on the Community Development Commission as a volunteer for the City of Urbana. So the Community Development Commission is the body that manages the affordable housing process for the City of Urbana, and also partly with the cities of Champaign and Savoy. And that is where we bring things forward to City Council. So if you're not seeing the ideas you think we should have, then please join the commission. We need more people to be on the Community Development Commission so we can roll up and make these changes happening at the city level. In general, I think the values in the plan are good. I do think that we want to continue to have very good metrics to track and to be sure that we're considering everything very broadly and strategically. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Dennis Roberts. I've had the opportunity to serve on the City Council in the past, and I'm currently on the Historic Preservation Commission. And I have a very strong interest in the downtown. When I was the council member, the downtown was mostly my district, and I have some thoughts I'd like to share to you. I've looked through the city plan online, and I've put in numerous comments, which if you look for my name, you'll find them scattered throughout the plan, but I just thought I'd mention a few tonight. Mainly, I'm interested in the vitality of the downtown. I think that we have a unique downtown, which is different than Champaign's. We're kind of more quiet, more unique. We have a lot of buildings in our downtown is only about 3.5 blocks long and about 2 blocks wide, so you have to love it and care for it carefully. Recently, the Historic Preservation Commission, about 2 years ago, created a downtown historic district for Urbana, which is a great idea. We do know that we also appreciate landmarked buildings to support the historic preservation of our community, and probably most of the people in the city don't want to see the downtown change radically into looks like some street in Chicago. I don't think that we're against larger blocks of development, but they need to be built in a way that's harmonious with what we do have, because what we do have is unique and it's kind of a gem. I also helped create, back in about 2008, the Joseph W. Royer Arts and Architecture District. It's a district that celebrates Royer's achievements as an architect. And when we talk about the arts in Urbana, I think we also have to realize that architecture is also a form of art and needs to be respected. So I'm encouraging, and I've been talking about my desire to see a downtown overlay district which gives guidance to new development downtown, so that anything that is built downtown, it can still be modern, but if the materials resonate and if the building structure, form, and size resonates with what is next to it, we will be able to maintain a handsome downtown without losing a downtown that is rather unique and sort of more of a historic venue for buildings. We don't want to have a building built in the middle of the downtown Main Street, for example, that looks like some kind of space module that came in from, the future. It wouldn't match and it wouldn't harmonize with the downtown. So I really recommend a design overlay district to be applied to the historic district so that we can guide people in future renovations and construction. One of the things about the downtown that would be vitalizing would be events downtown. And we do have some events that are kind of annual. We have the Folk and Roots Festival that comes to downtown. But, we used to have the Sweet Corn Festival. And I always thought, well, the Sweet Corn Festival, I mean, I didn't grow up here. I came from someplace else. And I thought, well, you know, we don't grow corn in Urbana so much. I mean, yeah, the farmers do around us, and there's a really good one, you know, in Hoopston. So what are we doing that for? But it was a venue to bring rock and roll groups to downtowns to add a lot of activity and have beer sales, which is really useful to everybody. I would like to suggest something different. We're looking for a downtown annual event, and I would say that we have numerous cultural groups on the campus of the U of I who would probably enjoy and benefit sharing their culture and their music and their dance and their performing arts in Urbana if we had an international cultural festival once a year here in this town. I think that would be a great idea, and it would be fairly easy to do. It's as good as easy as anything else, and it would bring students from the university and their families and people from the community to downtown Urbana, maybe for once or twice at least, you know, and if it was an annual event, I really recommend it. Also, connectivity to the U of I campus should be pursued through the Boneyard Creek. Urbana is the only municipality in this area that has not finished the Boneyard Creek plan, and there's no plan at all since 1978 from downtown to the U of I campus. I think that's a criminal oversight, and it could be a beautiful walking path and bikeway. So there's other things. Also, it doesn't compete with the Kickapoo Rail Trail. It would be a unique thing, and it bring green space to the community, which we've talked about here already. Other ideas I've written in the plan. If you look for them, you'll find them, and I'm open to ideas and discussion. And as a member of the Urbana Sister Cities Club, I think our GROW organization would really support the International Festival, among others. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Somebody making a move? No? Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak about the comprehensive plan?
Going once? Going twice?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just going to say, so it seems like we don't have any takers tonight, but we will be keeping this case open. So next week we have a regularly scheduled meeting. If you have thoughts between now and then. Also on the 27th, we're planning to have a special meeting, or we'll also discuss the plan. So please, if you haven't had a chance to read it, digest it, give us comments, come to that meeting, email us, planning@urbanail.gov now. We just got new email addresses, but thank you all for coming out. I think we're going to have some discussion here, right?
That's the plan.
Yep.
Okay, so seeing as there's no more interest in providing public comment tonight, we'll leave the public comment portion of the hearing open until our next meeting. But at this point, I'll invite any of the commissioners that have any points that they want to raise for discussion. Mr. Rose?
Yes. I have reviewed many of the email comments that we received, and it seems that many of them touch on touch on, first of all, the respective roles of the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance. And Kevin, the staff did a good job of describing the zoning ordinance as a regulatory document, the present comprehensive plan as a guidance document. But we toward the end, we have listed place types, and I sensed, coming from the emails, some confusion about what we mean by neighborhood 1 and 2. What this means to me is that neighborhood 1 has the single-family home as perhaps the core element of the zone, while neighborhood 2 might be more strongly characterized as neighborhood 2. I have a couple questions about that. The descriptions given are similar or identical?
They're similar. There are some, there are a few differences. There are subtle but very deliberate differences between the two.
And I'm not sure just how we're best able to use this distinction between two neighborhood types. In the zoning ordinance, we have residential, we have several residential, we have more than two residential types. And perhaps we need more than one, so I'm not quarreling with the choice of two, but there seems to be a misunderstanding, or not, but requiring clarification, that by having two and with with duplexes and smaller apartments and townhomes being permitted in both types, kind of puts a foot in the door toward introducing multifamily, for instance, in R1, where it's excluded.
No, I think that's where that's where some confusion lies. Is that that's one reason that we included the place types matrix in the back, where we kind of indicate, and the matrix in the back is really to give sort of more guidance on where each sort of development type, like say single homes, duplexes, might be appropriate. So for neighborhood 1, most types of development are really sort of painted with the yellow that says, essentially more more thought would need to be put into this at the time that we would be rewriting the zoning ordinance, because we want to send a clear message that, in some cases that these things could be appropriate, but we're not going to say, yes, give it the thumbs up, green, it should be appropriate everywhere, because then when we go to rewrite the zoning ordinance, then whoever's doing that at that time would say, oh, look, it's green here, it should be allowed everywhere. And that's not the intent at all.
Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins?
So picking up on this same topic, I think we need to clarify, we have decided that we don't have the staffing or the time to elaborate some of this stuff the way we have tried. But I think we need to be clear that whatever they're being called now, the place types, the neighborhood types, embed a resolution or a granular issue. These are not zoning categories. Right. And neighborhood types might be made up in a zoning ordinance of multiple zoning categories much less zoning districts. Now, that's my understanding of what we were trying to communicate. I think we failed. So I think we need to work on how we're communicating that in some fashion. And this is, in a way, following up on that, that question. And I agree, that seems to be some of the concern, especially in the emails. I've got, I mean, I will have to go through the new version and check all the new maps and everything, because I didn't see them until tonight. And I acknowledge I wasn't at the last two meetings, so I didn't see this stuff. A question. Co-ops came up tonight. We had, I think, 3 representatives of co-ops. The issue of the occupants per dwelling unit, I confess I don't know how co-ops get regulated in this regard. And I don't know whether we are doing a good job or a bad job of dealing with co-ops. So I'd like to know. And I guess I'd like to know because I'm not sure. This may be an opportunity to clarify some things related to neighborhood types and the components of neighborhood types related to zoning categories, which, I mean, a simple version of the issue with duplexes is in West Urbana, duplexes mean 8 people instead of 4. But co-ops apparently have a way around this. I don't know what it is.
I don't have my zoning ordinance with me. I imagine from a zoning perspective, we'd treat it something like well, we have a couple of categories of sort of group living facilities. We also have rooming houses.
Right.
Yeah, I can look into it. I'll talk to our building safety official too to see how building safety
I just want to
deals with
know
that,
if there's
too.
some way
Yeah.
that we should be dealing with this because it's been brought up by 3 people.
Yeah, I will say, I know we have, quite a few around town. I don't remember ever getting a complaint about any of them, so I think they seem to be good neighbors.
I am imagining it as a potentially good thing and a thing that might help solve some other related problems. Again, we haven't talked about it. I don't know much about it. I'd like to know.
Is it something that should be included as a development type? I'm just trying to think. Most of these are in single-family homes, or like they're in houses, essentially, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so the development type is a house, but it's being...
I think we don't know. I think we're speculating about stuff we don't know. If there are 14 residents of one of these things, I'm a little skeptical that it's a typical single-family house. And you can have a co-op apartment building. I mean, I know this is physically and legally possible in general. I just don't know what the situation in Urbana is.
Huge single-family houses.
Okay. Yeah.
Old
okay.
converted multifamily. I'm channeling the audience so people
right.
can
I
hear at
understand,
home.
But so the question becomes, how does this work within Urbana's legal framework of apartment registration, occupancy rules? Are the occupancy rule anyway? So by that definition, I've lived in one too, but not recently. And so a couple of other questions, maybe related, again, because I missed a meeting. Does the new version that you gave us tonight redefine the Busey corridor type, activity type?
It does not.
Okay, but
I
we
know
are
that
going
was
to do
something-
that, yes?
Yeah, that was
We
that was
discussed that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was kind of brought up a few weeks ago, and we have yet to discuss it in something like a study session or like this discussion here. So that
That's something we need to discuss now, or?
yeah, we can discuss that now. So yeah, so I'm pretty sure in our current plan. Why don't I ghost it up there so I can pull up the map? Okay, so I already have it open. So, yeah, so I think the issue that we're looking at, sorry about that. Okay. So I guess this is what I think I can zoom out a little bit. Okay, yeah, so the issue, just to remind everybody, is we sort of have downtown Urbana identified as a city center place type, and that is, I can pull up the definition here in a minute. And we had just kind of connected that along Springfield Avenue over to Lincoln, and sort of this area here is our new, the zoning district here is called Campus Mixed Use. We recently changed that just in this little area here. Then we have this is all identified still as city center, might not be the best name. And then just going down Lincoln Avenue, I want to be clear about that. Only along Lincoln Avenue. It does not extend over to Busey Avenue. I think this map being not terribly easy to read may have led to some confusion. And then over in the Gregory Place area. So sort of all of that is identified as this city center. In the existing plan, I believe somewhere right about where my cursor is, there's a split between what we call in that plan downtown, and then what we call most of this purple area was defined as campus mixed use.
You're talking about 2005 plan?
In the 2005 plan. So that would be an option. We could dust off that one. So my suggestion, based on my years of experience here, but also hearing input throughout all of those years, is that if we were to whatever we define this area, I think it's probably okay to paint it all the same color, but to add some annotations that say, west of Lincoln Avenue is where you have your tallest buildings, your highest population density, whatever we want to call it. East of Lincoln Avenue, you should really, have things that are not so tall and kind of, gradually merge into the neighborhood. So it's not so you don't have a 9-story building on the east side of Lincoln Avenue. Nobody's proposing that, but I want to be clear when we're coming up with this policy document here that we are clear about the intention.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise. I think we need to have 3 categories. I agree we have downtown, we make the break on Springfield Avenue as in the 2005 plan. The CMU area needs to be a distinct color because we, augmented by City Council, have already allowed, 12-story buildings now, I think?
120 feet, so 11,
Roughly
maybe 12.
10,
yeah.
12-story buildings. We should acknowledge that specific statement because we do not intend for this plan to change either the existence of that statement or the expansion of that statement. So I think we should say so, and just adding, and we should add the annotation as well. In other words, I agree with the annotation, but the annotation is to explain the difference in color, not to sort of finesse why we make distinctions in the color. And then the third area is the east side of Lincoln Avenue, the west half of the east side block, which is what you've got designated here. And that, you know, on this map, we've got Lincoln Gateway. I think we've also identified a Lincoln Corridor. I think we could call it Lincoln Corridor.
That's fine.
Because it is, essentially, we want to make a unique statement about it from a planning point of view. It does not make sense, at least to me, that north of Michigan Avenue, there are going to be single-family houses on the east side of Lincoln Avenue between Michigan and University. There have been. I mean, some of us have been here a long time. But from a planning point of view, and that should be then a different place type so that we can show the kinds of things and the kinds of ways we think that should be, the kinds of ways we think the 10, 12-story buildings should be, and the way we think downtown should be. And as Dennis Roberts pointed out, downtown also has its own set of characteristics that are unique to downtown. So generalizing those between this 10, 12-story building campus tax zone is still important. So my suggestion would be to create 3 categories: color differentiation, the annotations you've got in mind that are in part the distinctions, but reinforce then the city center is a unique thing, and these others are also essentially unique things.
So that generally sounds good to me. So one potential issue is that the place type or the character of Gregory Place, for example, seems very different than the east side of Lincoln, the half-block east side of Lincoln, north of Michigan up to wherever, largely in the sense that it's entirely residential. And I don't know if what we're saying, if we're combining that with a category that includes Gregory Place, are we saying that the intention is that that is potentially mixed use?
That what is potentially mixed use? The
half block
the
from Lincoln halfway into that block east.
Yeah, I think that's the potential would be that could become more of a mixed use. I mean, knowing what's on the ground there right now, there's some old Greek houses there that we want to see reused forever. You know, there aren't too many areas that, you know, I think would be redevelopable, however you want to say it, in the immediate future. So it's kind of, you know, there's sort of the place type that you identify, and then there's sort of reality of what might actually happen. But yeah, I mean, I think that is a good point of discussion if having some commercial uses there or some other uses would be worthwhile.
Yeah, well, I think the bigger question is the pattern. So that, I mean, that strip acts as a transition, kind of like a zone of transition from very intense uses to the west of Lincoln to very quickly much less intense uses that are entirely residential to the east of Lincoln, particularly east of Busey. So I don't know. If we're painting Gregory Place the same as that, I think there's potentially a disconnect between what Gregory Place is as a place type versus what we're imagining could be on the east side of Lincoln, that half block.
Suggestion. What if we make the Gregory Place finger, that is between West Oregon and West Nevada, Lincoln to whatever it is, I can't remember. What if we make that CMU annotated about building type, about building height, sorry, misspoke, so that the distinction between the CMU north of Green Street and the Gregory Place CMU is basically building height. But they're the same color, they're the same notion of street cross-section, and we're not doing street types, I know, because we don't have time, but I think they are more alike than the east side of Lincoln. And so what Dustin is suggesting, I think that would be a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because then you can also annotate the east side of Lincoln as residential or whatever.
Yeah, but then what does that east side of Lincoln become? Is that neighborhood 3?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of making essentially just a new place type just for this strip along the east side of Lincoln. I know one of the suggestions in one of the emails was instead of city center to call that neighborhood center, which is a defined place, which does allow a bit of mixing of uses, but is definitely much less intense than the city center description.
So neighborhood 3 would be a new type?
Well, I'm just thinking, if we're imagining that to be mostly residential in character, I don't know that neighborhood center captures that intent.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And I don't know that neighborhood 2 works because neighborhood 2 talks about single-family homes, and I don't think we're imagining single-family homes in that area. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't like the idea of having a single really small strip of an entirely different category, but.
Well, I mean that could be the type of nuanced thing that shakes out when the zoning ordinance gets revisited.
I don't think so.
Well, I think this needs to be the guidance for that shaking out. So.
Yeah, correct. And I think that,
I
think we could, identify the area and say, this, we can add text to the map. The text in the current plans map is pretty useful.
But what color? Which category then are you thinking? Neighborhood 2? Or
I mean, it could be neighborhood 2 or neighborhood center.
So when I'm looking at this, I actually really like how we have quite a few spots and then 2 corridors connecting those spots. For me, it looks like it has potential. It's like indicating a way to building the connectivity between the campus and the downtown. And then just instead of a huge blob in downtown, a huge blob in CMU, we're building this higher density use connection in between places. I like it.
I think the connectivity is on the development opportunities map. And I think the distinctions, this map is not actually about connectivity. So somewhere we have to make these distinctions about development type. And I think on this map is the opportunity to do it. And I don't think that Springfield Avenue is like downtown Urbana. And I don't think that the new CMU district is like the east side of Lincoln. And if we don't get this straight now, it's going to be a lot harder to write the zoning ordinance. And when somebody contests the zoning ordinance, if it's not backed this much better than this in the comp plan, we are going to be vulnerable in the zoning ordinance. So I think it's pretty important to get this right.
Is if we were to split off downtown and the CMU, and then we have these downtown, the CMU, and then Gregory Place also becomes the CMU, but we deal with the difference in annotations. Then we have these two corridors to figure out. Are the development types in Springfield Avenue and that corridor currently or envisioned similar in character to the east side of?
I think so. I mean, you've got, it's mostly, it's mostly residential. You have some apartment buildings and things currently on Springfield Avenue.
What if we called it neighborhood corridor? I mean, they're two very important areas. One is a kind of a gateway to campus. The other is a gateway to downtown. I mean, I think it's not terrible to come up with a different category that is specific to those two areas.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure the label is the perfect label, but the idea that Springfield Avenue and the east side of Lincoln are actually very similar. I think it sort of solves Genji's issue of having a map that shows these connections, because then they would look like connections, but they would have the distinction of building type.
Okay, so then we need a name.
Yeah, well, neighborhood corridor is the best we've got so far.
Yeah.
All I said was I just heard it, and I'm not sure it's the best, but it's the best we have so far. So for the moment, think about it.
No, it's not the same as neighborhood center, because neighborhood center has much more of a mix of uses.
I didn't hear.
She said she likes it.
We have an audience likes that, but it's going to be QNC.
NC. Oh, the abbreviation is the same. I get it now. Okay. What about RC, residential corridor?
RC.
So we still have neighborhood centers elsewhere that we have to keep that?
How do what differ? So how would the corridor differ from downtown and also from the CMU, the campus mixed use? Yeah.
Yes.
Intensity and mix of uses. So the height of the buildings, as well as the allowing for the mix of uses, more commercial uses.
So we're deliberating in a way that gives guidance to staff in rewriting. We don't rewrite text in the meeting.
The idea is that staff will go back and then share something on the 20th with a proposed change for that, so that we can talk again, hopefully moving towards something that's acceptable on the 27th. That's our overall time frame. I think what's described.
Well, the main problem with neighborhood centers, it starts out as mostly commercial, and we don't want Springfield Avenue and the east side of Lincoln to be mostly commercial, so it's not neighborhood center. It's something else. And the neighborhood corridor, if we really need to worry about the initials at this point, I'm not sure we do. I think if we got to the zoning ordinance, we might want to worry about that because it's designations, but I don't think we have to worry about it here.
How about corridor or neighborhood?
I mean, that's kind of what it is, right?
We don't need to be dealing with the initials, I would argue, so let's not. And the key difference for people who are trying to think of what's the text look like is it's mostly residential. And then it is not primarily single family. So it's mostly residential with a description that is more like neighborhood 2 and less like neighborhood 1 or neighborhood center.
Yeah, with an intensity, so multi-story buildings, but with an intensity that looks similar to what's currently there. So 3-story, I think they're mostly 3-story buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not getting into
We
height
don't
limits
have
and, levels of buildings,
No.
but
Okay, so I think we've got a pretty good way of fixing some of the problems in the current description. And I'm all for more annotations. The annotations in 2005 worked really well from my point of view. And we could add more.
anything else that we need to talk about?
The labeling of green space, might just clarify in the text for that category why we're describing things that way. Clearly, a private country club is not the same as a public space, but that's not what our current use of that
Right.
label is for. So
Yeah.
you can acknowledge that in the text. My recollection is that in the previous round of revisions, we got the sidewalks, streetlights clarified in equity terms. That was brought up, but I think we already dealt with that in a previous revision. No, yes?
There are little moves, I think, associated with that. I think there are metrics associated with that also.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. I'm just going through the stuff that I heard.
I haven't done a keyword search, but off the top of my head, I don't remember a mention of homelessness. Is that something that's discussed?
I thought so, but I really do not know, actually.
I mean, that might be something to
Yeah.
add in, certainly in, what would it be, Big Move 1, probably?
Well, where we've got affordable housing.
Yeah, Big Move
Yeah.
1.
Something else I was going to look at. What was it?
Anything else?
Just in response to the presentation by Jim Webster, Lincoln Square. Lincoln Square is prominent in Urbana. It may deserve mention. I was looking for where and how that might occur. Under Big Idea 1, Urbana is a place for everyone, and transform downtown into a vibrant, inclusive gathering space might be the location, but I can't offer suggestions beyond that.
That's right. We do talk about implementing the recommendations from the public realm study, which, a lot of that focused in the Lincoln Square area. Also, just based on what one of our commenters mentioned earlier, maybe doing something with all that parking around it could help, maybe increase the vibrancy of the area. I mean, that's definitely in the public realm study as well. But
Yeah, I mean, part of that is highlighted in the development opportunities with the city-owned parcels.
yeah,
So, yeah, I don't know if we need to mention specific privately owned property in the comp plan.
yeah.
I mean, another one of the comments someone made had to do with why so much focus on downtown? What about what's happening in other places like Philo Road? So, which is also points we've raised in the past. So I don't know. I think there's an emphasis on downtown that's in there, and
There is. I mean, but that's also why we've got the development opportunities map, is to say, it's not just downtown. We can also focus elsewhere.
yeah, no, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's a problem. I'm saying
Yeah.
there is an emphasis on downtown,
Yes.
so I think that covers Lincoln Square too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is what I'm starting to say.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, another question that may go back to my not having been here. Somewhere there was a reference to having clarified the other plans involved.
Yes. Yeah. And
So
actually,
do we have somewhere in this version a list or how we're actually going to do the adoption?
yeah, and I actually went through earlier and added most of the plans that are currently adopted as part of our current plan. Because before we had, let's see, where are we?
So this is some page in the new version?
Yeah, I think it's might be in background and trends. But earlier, I just added those. Okay. So so here they are. We've run this basically the wording came from our city attorney. But we state right here that Imagine Urbana adopts the following as elements of the plan. Bicycle master plan, pedestrian master plan, Boneyard Creek master plan, bicycle wayfinding plan, the county greenways and trails plan, the county hazard mitigation plan. I went back and looked at the Crystal Lake neighborhood plan, and there's good stuff in there that hasn't been implemented, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't carry that forward. And there's some annotations on the map in there that I think we could carry over to this plan as well.
And maybe actually put as annotations in this
Yeah.
plan?
Yeah.
If we're going to do that, that
Yep.
strikes me as a good idea.
And then the 2012 downtown plan, and then we just say that subsequent versions of these plans will automatically be adopted into Imagine Urbana. that might not be all that necessary now that, or after I had really thought about how we would adopt those plans anyway, is that most of those plans would come through Plan Commission and go to City Council, but some of them, could, like a bicycle master plan or a pedestrian master plan, new versions of those could come out of our bicycle and pedestrian advisory commission, and so it might not necessarily have to come as a case through Plan Commission, but I mean, it's got to get adopted some way, so I'm not sure.
So automatic is not acceptable, okay? Because that implies that nobody has to do anything. If those plans exist, they're automatically part of the comp plan. And there's an argument, I don't know what the current feeling is among the administration or the current city attorney. The reason, I think all of these that you've got listed were actually adopted as amendments to the 2005 comp plan.
All but the Boneyard Creek master plan were.
Interesting. I don't remember why that one wasn't. But when was it?
2008.
The reason is, well, the Crystal Lake was in 2008 too. But it's not clear that these plans should be or need to be adopted as amendments to the comp plan rather than standing on their own, as the bicycle plan might come to the city council via the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission rather than the Plan Commission. But if they're going to be adopted as amendments or automatically become part of the comp plan, they've got to come through the Plan Commission, I think, by state legislation. I don't have it in front of me, but which we may not want to do. Now, my understanding is the reason they were done as amendments was that the then city attorney and administration thought that they had more potential legal use as legal backing if they were actually part of the comp plan. Meaning legal backing for challenge decisions without plan basis. I think that's a judgment call. I don't know how current city administration wants to deal with it, but we can't say that subsequent things are automatically adopted into Imagine Urbana.
Sorry, the mic isn't working back there. We'll talk with the city attorney about that again. He gave us this language, and maybe it needs to say approved plans, but we'll check with him on the legality.
Including the subsequent versions are automatically?
Yes, he gave us that language. Yeah. So we'll double check though on your point.
Well, I'm going to challenge it. Anyway, okay.
Yeah. So we'll double check based on the comment you made about thinking
It's
it
state
needs to go through
legislation.
Plan Commission.
I mean, an amendment to it, they don't automatically. Now, there's another problem with that statement that I have that I think is a subtlety we need to deal with. It says will be adopted into Imagine Urbana. Somehow the label has to acknowledge that it's the city's comprehensive plan. Again, there's state legislation about how a comprehensive plan has to be dealt with.
Yeah, and we can add that. I think that's a good point.
And when we refer only to Imagine Urbana, then there's potential confusion about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can add that.
Is it worth, one of the other points you raised was, like, what do we get out of having these plans adopted as amendments as opposed to having them just be plans that stand on their own? And I mean, we've never, in any of the decisions that we've taken since I've been on commission, we've never made reference to anything outside of the core comprehensive.
I mean, I think occasionally we'll bring in the bike or pedestrian master plan if we're talking about something like, oh, the bicycle master plan shows a bike path going here or something. But yeah, usually it's not like a really core element of any of the reasoning that we're bringing forth. I mean, the only exception I could think of, which it hasn't happened that I know of, but if something was to be done, say, in the Crystal Lake neighborhood, we would definitely go to that plan and look at that. But I can't really remember any cases where we had to do that.
So I think an option to consider, which was actually my preference 15 years ago, is not to adopt these as amendments unless we have a particular reason, as you point out with maybe the Crystal Lake Master Plan, on the presumption that the comp plan's main legal backing potential relates to land use decisions. And the likelihood that we would be using any of these other plans as a component of the comp plan to do that, or that they would gain any greater meaning by being officially part of or amended to the comp plan, is, I think it's not worth the confusion, the problem that Dustin just raised, but also the situation we're in now. So I think it might actually be better if this paragraph identified these same plans, and again, there may be an exception, as you point out, for the Crystal Lake plan, as now standing on their own as adopted plans that were previously amendments to the previous comp plan. And then we don't have to worry about keeping track of all these funny amendments that we never use. And since we're hoping to be more active with the current comp plan we're doing, we can keep track of its amendments that are what I'll call real amendments to the comp plan and not worry about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because as you just called, real amendment to this plan would be something where we would go in and update the place types map, area gets developed, that's different, but, we would be updating the plan, as it, within its current structure. It's not, because the only way I could see of adopting a lot of these plans into this would be sticking them in the appendix or adding another
and we don't
thing onto here, so.
I think there's also the potential that there are contradictory things in these plans that might contradict the current proposed comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
As well as updates in the future, because these are not plans that we have visibility over necessarily,
right,
in terms of their creation or their plan making process. So I think it avoids that possibility.
I concur. We're not provided with the reason why this is done. We can imagine it, I suppose. But I concur with the direction being proposed here, and that is, let's allow amendments to the comprehensive plan be those intended to be amendments.
Yeah.
We do still have to have the wording that these become independent of the comp plan, because at the moment, their formal adoption is as amendments to a comp plan, which presumably is superseded by a new comp plan. So if we want them to be alive, they have to be alive as independent plans, which I, in addition, for the reason Dustin just mentioned, which if you've read anything I've written, you are aware of this argument, that it's much better if they stand on their own and express their own, and it enables them. In my view, we want the Pedestrian and Bike Commission to what I'll call overstate their aspirations and not be constrained by them being consistent with the comp plan. That's like losing the voice of the individual plans. So anyway, and I'll also reinforce your point about the Crystal Lake plan, though. There may be among these ones that really belong as amendments.
But if they do, I think we should definitely get those annotations on the map, including the downtown. I mean, the only other one that would seem to me to maybe have things would be the downtown plan, but I haven't looked at that recently, so.
Yeah, and for the ones that we're going to do that with, we need to see copies. Because in effect, we're adopting them again as an amendment to this
Right.
plan, to the new plan.
Okay, any other comments or any other items that we need to discuss this evening? All right. In that case, so we do need to have a motion to continue the public hearing until the March 20th meeting. And if we could specify in that motion that we are intending to allow additional public comment during that continued meeting, that would be good.
What's the case number?
2502-CP-25.
Okay,
Is that right?
I move that we continue the public hearing of Plan Case 2502 CP25 to the meeting currently scheduled for March 20 with public comment period remaining open.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Hopkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion on that motion? All right, it seems like we're ready to vote. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Ms. McFarland? Yes. Rose?
Yes.
You?
Yes.
Mr. Allred?
Yes. Okay, that passes. So just again, for those in the audience or watching at home, this case will be continued to the March 20th meeting of the Plan Commission. And there will be opportunity for public comment during that meeting as well. Okay, that brings us to new business. We have no new business. Audience participation. Is there anyone who wishes to address the Plan Commission for 5 minutes uninterrupted on a topic of your choice? If so, please come forward and sign in. All right, seeing as we have no takers, we'll move on. Staff report. Do we have a staff report?
No, I think we covered everything I was thinking about talking about, so we're good.
Okay. We have no study session, no closed session, in which case we are adjourned at 9:04.